Ladies and gentlemen, what's up, boys and girls? This is Maurice Philogene, host of the Try Life On podcast. Another great episode coming. I was able to convince my friend Andy Freeman to join the podcast. I want you to take something away from this episode. This is what I want you to take, that you have to jump. Andy's a jumper. He started out as a CPA, working at a firm, internal to a company as a CPA and accounts receivables, realized that just was not going to cut it. Through a friend, came to understand that if he went into the sales business, specifically auto sales, he would make 10x what he was making as a CPA. And true to form, salesmen make a lot of money. If people could realize that being a salesman is not about getting over on people, it's about solving people's problem, or at least the people who do it with integrity. He really had it. But the thing I want you to take away from this is Andy did that for 10 years and then started to realize that he was giving up life. He was trading his time for money, working 6 to 7 days a week, 12 to 13 hours a day. And even though he was getting a ton of money, he was missing life along the way. And that's when he had the shift, the moment where he moved into an entrepreneurial zone, not to make more money, but to find a way to organize his life so he could have much more time freedom while building assets for financial freedom, while having location independence to be anywhere in the US and overseas that he wanted to, and to build his family with his now fiancé and business partner. It's a great story. And once again, the entrepreneurial vehicle in this one was real estate. I know I am biased towards real estate because it has a lot of benefits, but the thing I want to introduce you to is mobile home parks, okay? I usually talk about apartment complexes, single family homes, but what about mobile home parks? Well, Andy's going to talk about it and how it changed his life, but he designed his life leveraging that asset, moving from what many of you want to move away from, which is the traditional work world, into working for himself and controlling his own destiny. So this episode of the Try Life On podcast is with my man, Andy Freeman. I think you're going to like it. It's a good one. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Just off camera or off mic. I mean, it's a podcast. What do you really do? But what I was telling Andy off camera was I love to introduce people, especially through Try Life On podcast and other platforms that I work through, to awesome entrepreneurial, well, sometimes W-2, but awesome entrepreneurial options in life such that you can design your life, create time freedom, create some financial freedom, even create some location independence because you have passive income coming in or active income coming in from some virtual place or something. And the reason why I asked you on, Andy, and I remember, dude, you made some comment on a post that I made or whatever that resonated with me, that your interest in real estate was beyond just making money. It was a life-related thing. So I wanted to introduce everyone to you, my man, Andy Freeman. And I know you're doing mobile home parks. Talk about that a little bit and just your journey through the W-2, traditional careers, if you will, to get to a point where you're now investing in mobile home parks.
Yeah, so mobile home parks is what I do. And right, that's what people on LinkedIn see me talking about mostly, but it goes beyond that, right? Mobile home parks is the avenue, is the vehicle to where I'm trying to go. And, we're, like you said, like you talk about all the time, we're all have different goals and aspirations, but a lot of real estate is a vehicle to get to somewhere else different in life. And so the post that you had mentioned, I had said real estate is not me going out and trying to make millions and millions of dollars, because there's other ways to do that, but you're obviously you're trading time for dollars. Whereas real estate can set you up to where a little bit more where you're able to kind of plant seeds, grow these seeds, and allow yourself more flexibility, life freedom, and so on. And so really quickly, my journey started the traditional route, go to college. Parents told me, go to college. I was good with numbers, get an accounting degree, right? So I spent 9-10 years doing accounting and not really, slowly moving up, slowly pay increases. I was in Southern California and I just never even, I couldn't even fathom how I was ever going to buy a house or anything off the salary I was making. So the first step out of there was I was exposed to car sales. I had a friend who owned or was a general manager of a dealership.
Yeah.
And he's, I knew him for five years before I even started to work for him. He never wanted to, kind of mix business and friendship. But he said he saw what I was doing with my accounting degree. He's like, man, I got people making 10 grand a month who can't even spell at my dealership. And I'm sitting here making, $4 grand at the time doing accounting.
Yeah.
And so I
Were you at a firm? Were you at like a traditional firm, or were you
no, I didn't have the
freelancing?
GPA for that. I didn't have this. So I was just doing for a healthcare company. I was doing accounts receivable. I was, trying to get my CPA license, studying for that.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
took some failed attempts to become a CPA, but I wasn't at a big four firm. My GPA, I was a 3.2 kind of guy. I wasn't perfect grades, but I wasn't bad grades either. So,
Yeah. I was two
but
nine, so like
yeah. So to me,
we're
that's
fine.
good.
We did
Yeah.
okay. We did okay.
Yeah. Like 4.0 is too, I didn't want to sacrifice that much to get those grades. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so left the accounting after 10 years. It was a little, I mean, I had anxiety every day of every month for the first 2 years doing a sales job, but I was able, I think he kind of gave me the blueprint to show up, work hard. There's a lot of people in those sales jobs not putting the time and effort. Then I got a little too carried away and I was working 6 to 7 days a week. I mean, I was working every day,
You went
from
too far to the right with it.
yeah, they call it bell to bell. Basically, you're there at 9 a.m. You're not leaving till 12 midnight or 1 hour. You're putting in 12, 13-hour days.
Mm.
But you're directly rewarded for the effort you put in because you're there more, you're selling more cars. Right. So I was able to make literally 10 times what I was making in an accounting job.
10 times.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So you're saying making,
Holy crap.
yeah. I mean, in some of my, I was one of my best years. So in my second year there, I was top 10 in the country in sales, sold 565 cars, which equates to
Holy Jesus.
over two per like working day, or two per actual calendar day. And so basically, and I was selling 2 to 3 cars every day I was there.
Damn.
And then what happened then was made good money, was able to buy my first house. But the problem, how everything kind of arose was I was afraid to take a day off of work because you take a day off of work doing sales, you're not getting paid. We get
Right.
like maybe $50 a day off. Right. So then I was too far to the right there and had a issue in the family. My father got a little health scare, and kind of just my whole kind of life played before my eyes. I was missing family functions. I was missing everything for the sake of working to chase this
How
money.
long did you stay? When you say selling cars, I think you were working at Toyota, but were you talking about a dealership?
Yeah, so I worked at a Toyota dealership. We're in Southern California, kind of a high volume dealership. I was
Oh,
in
how long?
internet sales, so I
Okay.
wasn't like standing out front. I was on a computer. I had good email skills from my accounting job and stuff, so I was able to quickly
Right.
reply to emails. I'd
Right.
wake up in the middle of the night and take inbound leads and just kind of play the whole game. So it was still a lot of computer driven. Obviously, when they get there, you're working face to face, but it was like internet sales for a Toyota dealership.
Internet sales. Okay. How long did you stay there? Like how many years?
About almost a little over 5 years.
Oh man, you were there for a while. And how long were
Yeah,
you in the accounting stuff?
about 10 years.
15. So 15 years total before this other journey we're going to talk about. But I want to call something out. Grant Cardone, like everybody knows him, or if you know him from Cardone Capital, he always, I don't listen to him much anymore because my value systems have kind of shifted. I'm not really much of a money guy anymore as much as I am a lifestyle guy. But the one thing I got from him, and now your journey is kind of validating it, is like when you are in sales, you are directly responsible for your pay, but you have the ability to make 5x, 10x, 20x what you're making at a standard career. And it sounds like that was exactly what happened to you. That did you even know that you could make that level of money?
No, no. I mean, the guy that my friend that got me into it, I mean, he said, you can make 100K if you really bust your butt, make 10 grand a month, something like that. But I mean, we're having months. I mean, I've had $40,000 months. I mean, I made more in 1 month
40,000.
than in my whole whole year at the accounting job.
Wow.
So that's what kind of opened my eyes. And I feel a little foolish, not because sales is scary if you're don't have that personality type, and it's you have to sell to make money, right? Some people want that comfortable W-2 paycheck that they can count on. Sales, there's ups and downs. There's
Yep.
market cycles, so that's also going to cause. Not everyone's personality is geared for sales, right? But I mean, what I told everyone, if I can do sales, so I'm an introvert doing accounting. You can do a lot of sales. Is not actually selling, which I've noticed. It's responding, answering the question, listening to people what their problem is, and finding a solution to it versus trying to be the smoothest talker in the world.
Yeah, it's people stuff. But and I'm sure you'll bring this up, but we go into those high revenue jobs, and I was in one, my consulting firm. I wasn't making the amount of money you could make in sales, but I was smart enough to take that money and to start buying stuff like assets with it that could help me out later. But I think I just want to call that out because when you are in a sales job, I used to think salesmen were like, snake oil salesmen and stuff like that. No, actually, and I'm kind of a salesman in terms of helping out my investors and stuff. All we're doing is trying to solve people's problems, right? And if you can solve someone's problem, then you're going to get compensated for it one way or the other. You mentioned being afraid to take a day off of work. So there was some kind of mindset shift that started to happen. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, so I won some trips. I won a trip to Bahamas, to Hawaii, and I was too afraid to even take those trips. Looking back, I'm so stupid. I took one trip I won, but to like the Cayman Islands, but I was turning down trips because I didn't want to take time off of work. And I didn't even need the money. I just got so used to trying to hit my number that I had kind of put for myself. So my dad had the 98% blockage and he got a call. He was in the hospital. He early stages heart attack, right? And I had to go like after that, I just never got back because was missing at that time. I got to work because with the car business, all the holidays are days you work. Those are busy days, like 4th of July sale.
You got to be there. Yeah.
You got to be there. New Year. So I'm missing all these family functions. And then I had that kind of wake up call. I'm like, what's really the point now? So now money's not an issue in my life anymore, but now my time. So I make enough income to survive and I'm not even spending my money because I don't have time to spend it. Mm-hmm. And I don't have time with the family. So that's when like a mindset shifted. I had money now to actually consider investing. I just started heavily consumption of podcasts. And I didn't even mention, I also had sold I had a place in Newport Beach, California, pretty close to the beach, sold my condo because I was gearing up to do something with real estate. I didn't know what yet. I just knew that I couldn't continue down that same path. I was gearing towards my 40th birthday. And I don't actually, so I guess the thing I had said was, I don't want to be doing car sales past the age of 40, or else the coworkers I had there, they're stuck there for life. There's a lot of people that have done lifetime car sales and people try to escape the dealership and they never get out. So I told myself I wasn't going to do it after 40. And I kind of just tried to put a plan in place to not let that happen.
So it wasn't, I know you're going to make a shift to real estate. And again, I got to keep saying this, that one of the reasons I bring people on who have done real estate, it's not because of real estate. It's because they have found something that will enable their life to be better for them from a time perspective, or even from who you associate with perspective, just so you are around some people who know more stuff than you. But it truly does sound like your shift towards, look, I'm going to start buying real estate was more so lifestyle related than it was, I need to make more and more money.
Correct. You're exactly right. And I had seen, so there's a lot of modest kind of millionaires that would buy Toyotas. And every consistent theme I saw was people had rental properties, they owned some apartments or something. They had real estate, and these people were always super laid back. They weren't like stressed, like having to hit meet a time constraint. And I just kind of ended that because I was always running around so fast. Everything's rushed.
Yeah.
And the most laid back people I had were comfortable. They had other streams. They weren't at a W-2 job with all these deadlines and all this they still have pressures and life pressure, but they didn't have that same sort of pressure as someone that worked in the W-2 job, having to wake up, commute in traffic, especially in California, Southern California, with the traffic and just the whole you're adding multiple hours each day to your normal stressful job. And so there's just a lot that goes into it. So yeah, like you mentioned, real estate was going to be the vehicle to get some of my time back. It wasn't the money I was after.
Yep. And I hope people heard that. And the other thing I want to say is those calm people, I suspect I'm one of them now, but those calm people who are getting streams of income from other places, I'd say 95% of them are not getting millions of dollars of income. What they're getting is a few thousand, just enough over their expenses that they feel some level of security, where it's like, all right, I got $4,000 worth of expense. I post about this all the time. I got $4,000 of expenses, but I got $8,000 coming in from real estate monthly. That, of course, it takes time to build. And then some people stop. So when people talk about real estate people and people who generate cash flow, they're like, oh, they have millions. No, that calm comes from the ability to pay your basic needs. And then, of course, you'll build on top of that. You talked about starting to listen to podcasts, and maybe, I don't know if you went to any seminars or anything, but what was the transition into real estate and what was the first deal?
Yeah, and really quickly, you have that demeanor and that tone of one of those calm people with streams of income coming in that's not super concerned and worried. So yeah, exactly. People kind of that sound like you. But yeah, so I never had a commute. I was 5-10 minutes. So I started having like a 45-minute commute each day to work. And because I moved in with my girlfriend and her mom to save money and to sell my primary residence, and we were building to invest in something. But Bigger Pockets was, I mean, at that time I think they had about probably 400 episodes, maybe 300. I mean, I was just going down the list. I was listening. I was thinking apartments. I was thinking burst strategy. I was thinking mobile home. Then I got into mobile home parks. But my first ever deal was an out of state. I decided I was going to just buy a out of state property cash and do a remodel. So I end up in Indianapolis. So I ended up bought a couple out of state rentals in Indianapolis. I was planning to keep them rentals. I kind of did the math on how many I would need to be able to, create, say, 10,000 a month. So I was going to try to buy, I don't even remember the number, but I pivoted off of that. So
wait a second. What was the price point of the property that you bought in Indianapolis?
Yeah, so the first one I ever bought, I posted this before on LinkedIn. It was 34,000.
Shut the front door. Will you send me that post?
Yeah, I paid over it. You want to see it right now or later?
No, later. Because people, I'll tell you why in a little bit, but go ahead. So it was $34,000, and then you mapped out a thing like, if I buy all of these, I'm going to generate this amount of income.
Correct. Yeah. So I actually paid over asking on that by a little bit. I think I paid 39 or something, just because it seemed too good a deal when there's no pictures. The problem areas in the inside, but ended up still being able to turn a profit on that first deal, which I always preach on LinkedIn. First deal, you're not going to hit a home run. I mean, if you can break even, make a small profit, that's a success, because that's going to build the momentum to carry forward. Because you're definitely not going to achieve financial freedom off one deal,
right?
Or off your first deal, certainly.
Right. And did you end up buying more? Are you from Indianapolis? No, you're from California.
No, from California, yeah.
So how did you know to go to Indy to find that kind of price point?
Just because I just from Bigger Pockets and looking in the forums, and people were saying maybe like Tennessee. There's just small pockets where you can buy. The Midwest, you can buy a home for 50, 60 grand, which is a low price point. I couldn't play that game in California.
Of course.
And it's too competitive for flippers and stuff. So I just kind of did a bunch of research. I just kept getting weekly emails. There's some people that send leads for, from wholesalers and stuff, and just found one that seemed like it made sense. So bought that, and then went on to do one. I only did one more in Indianapolis before I said I need to go to multifamily, just because I was out visiting the first one I bought, and the next door neighbor had a rental also, and they were digging the whole sewer up to the main line of they had like excavator, everything like that. It was like a $10,000 repair. And then I said, who pays for that? And they said, well, the landlord. And so basically like that's 3, 4, 5 years of cash flow wiped out by one, CapEx item. And I kind of really realized my plan could possibly backfire, if you had any unforeseen expenses. So multifamily, they preach the economies of scale, where you have, you go one unit goes vacant out of 100, you're not in as bad a shape of 1 out of 1.
So it's good to be transparent on the real estate front. So I like that, because it's very easy for me to sit here and be like, see, I told you can find a property that's, 40 grand or less and make some money off of it. But as you're saying, if some repair came relative to pipes or something underground, you're paying $10,000, you've wiped out cash flow for 4 or 5 years. In my single family journey, it was all condos in DC, and the price points were like 80,000 to 150. Right. This is in the 2000s, up to like 2014. The issue, they're all paid off now, so I'm in a good position. So these things cash flow, or like the rent for these things is like 1,800. So they probably cash flow like 1,100, 1,200, and I have almost 20 of them. So it's a good thing. But I want to be transparent. When I have like what's happening now, 6 of those, the HVACs had to be replaced, and they were all like these dual, weirdly designed HVACs from 2002, 2003, and they all cost about 8 grand a piece, right? So I'm in for like 50 grand in replacements of HVACs, and I've lost cash flow from these things for about 1.5 years. But here's the thing, I've owned them for almost 20 years. So I'm losing a year, 1.5 years, but that's part of the business. You have to, I know to now have appliance insurance. I never really cared about that stuff before. Now I do.
I didn't even know about that, actually. I never heard about that.
Yeah, just the home warranty stuff that will replace appliances. They will replace the HVACs if you insured it within the first 5 years of its life.
Oh, okay.
So these things are all over. So you can lose value. You can lose cash flow And so real estate's not perfect. You just have to plan for it. So your thought was to go to multifamily. How do you even know that multifamily exists, and why mobile home parks versus apartment complexes? Where did you get the information?
Yeah, again, so back to bigger pockets. And I had tried to do multifamily. That's what I was looking for. And that space just seemed way more competitive. Just harder, just kind of harder to find off-market deals and just seem more competitive. And then there's one podcast with Kevin Buff. He's a pretty well-known guy in mobile home
Yep,
parks.
yep,
He
yep.
just spoke so clearly on the mobile home. I mean, he sold me on mobile home parks on one of the bigger pockets podcasts he was on.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, and also let me circle back. I have a friend in California, a friend of a friend who I know by association, who when I would see in passing, or we'd go to some of the same places, and he was just super wealthy, had a plane, all this stuff. And I never even, people told me what he did, but I never really even thought about it. They just said he owned mobile home parks, right? So he's owned 90 mobile home parks
90.
since he owns more now, but he's owned them since the 80s. I mean,
Holy
he's been
crap.
in this for almost 40 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, he's just ultra wealthy. And so, but everyone hangs out with him, but no one really asks him about what he does. They just say that's what he does. So I
Right.
started to also pry into there. I knew it worked because then I kind of just did a little more research on what he had. And I'm like, man, he hit a gold mine with this based on when he got into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know that's what he did. And then the podcast with Kevin Bupp. And then I really just started doing the direct mail and cold calling, kind of built the database to go after owners. And it was just I liked the process of talking with mobile home park owners. They're just, I mean, it's non-threatening, very friendly. Love to tell you the
Yeah.
story. I mean, you get really, I mean, minimal pushback from cold calling. I mean, it's you've never seen a group more happy to receive a cold call than mom and pop mobile home park owners.
Right, because they get to talk about something
Yeah,
that's been part of them and their family for a very long time.
yeah,
So just so I know the scope of stuff that you do, but you're talking. Give me size, scale, why mom and pops, what a mom and pop is. Just like if someone doesn't know even what a mobile home park is, like just express that
yeah.
for them.
So mobile home parks, people, aka, and people call them trailer parks. I mean, there are a lot of trailer parks. I guess have the stigma of being run down, kind of just a bunch
Yeah.
of trailers on dirt. But I mean, we're going after mobile home parks where by mom and pop, we mean the original. A lot of these are still owned by the original owners. A lot of mobile home parks were built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. A lot of them are still owned by the original owners or the owners' families. There's still to this day only maybe 10% are institutionally owned. There's 44,000 something mobile home parks. About 40,000 are still mom and pop owned. So we definitely go after. And then we don't go after the mom and pops just because they're more in a place to sell. A lot of times there's some market inefficiencies from their operational standpoint. They tend to not keep the lot rents where they need to be. They don't really necessarily always invest back into the communities to keep them nice.
Right.
So there's a value add component there. And a lot of times it's just, they're for some reason their family members don't want to take on the park and they're reaching the age where they need to sell. So it's kind of you're helping them, and it's not a quick process. They don't have debt. They're not in a rush to sell. Sometimes it can take 2 to 3 years for a transaction to occur with them, but that's why we do that. Versus a lot of the institutional holders aren't selling anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
um,
I like
but
the mom and pops as well. So I transparency. So I own a couple mobile home parks. It's not my focus, but one of my non-Quattro Capital business partners pulled me into it. And true to form is what you're saying. They were both mom and pop. Like the first one, the first two that I bought, the the guy, one's in central Pennsylvania. The guy owned it, built it in the 70s, late 70s. And it was just time. And when he sold it, he was in his low 80s. And what he wanted, this is why I always tell people when you're buying something from someone, you're solving a problem. If you can solve the problem, then you're not even necessarily paying the highest price. What he cared about was that him and his wife got 10 grand a piece off of a mortgage, so seller financing. That's all he wanted. I just need to know that me and my wife have 10 grand a piece. So if she dies, I'm good. If I die, she's good. And it almost pull at your heartstrings like, I'm never going to take advantage of this
yeah,
man. In fact, I want to take care of him for the rest of his life. So we got that on a seller finance. That's why I love these mom and pops, because you are actually doing something good for their family and kind of keeping their legacy moving forward, as opposed to like going to buy from an institution and it's just a financial
Yeah.
transaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're squarely in that space, and you probably have that level of emotion too about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. You're carrying on their legacy, right? And a lot of times their siblings aren't interested in even hearing their story, or they're just not interested in the park. So you're the one person that actually will let them share their whole, I mean, 40, 30, 40 years of stories and history, and they want to know that it's going to the right place. So a lot of times, like you mentioned, it's not about the number being thrown in front of them. A lot of them don't even, I mean, they sure they want their price, but if they think their park's going to go into bad hands for 500,000 more, they're not going to go that way. They're going to go with the person that's going to carry on their legacy, treat their tenants right, not crush them with a huge rent raise. And
Right.
so that's why a lot of what that process is about, building the relationship with them. They're never gonna, no one's ever just gonna sell. You're not gonna call a mom and pop and have them sell the next day. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
relationship built transaction.
So how big are they? How many acres? What is the purchase price of the stuff that you typically buy?
Yeah. So I guess when I first transitioned from single family into mobile home parks, I mean, we bought our first few parks were 36 units, 20 units, some smaller ones, then 70 something units. Now we're really going 50 to 75 plus, $2 to $3 million plus purchase price and upward, just for management efficiencies, economies of
Yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
all
I'm
that
with
type
you.
of stuff. But in the
Yeah.
beginning, I wouldn't recommend anyone go that big to start. I mean, there's sometimes you can buy one mobile home park with 15 to 20 units. If you buy it without investors, buy it with your own money, put some
Yeah.
time and energy into it, you pretty easily double the value of a smaller park with the right amount of, sweat equity. So
Yeah.
it's just, to start, I would say start small and work your way into it. I mean, you don't want to get in over your skis buying too big a park with bad utility infrastructure and such. So right now, to answer what your question was, I mean, we're going 50 to 75 in the Midwest still, because we're still after that
Still in the
cash flow.
Midwest.
Yeah, still in the Midwest for these mobile home parks. California parks, again, I mean, I'd love to get back to California, but the parks just don't. I mean, a 2 acre ultra dense park in California, the parks are older. They were built there earlier. So I mean, you're getting parks that with old homes, super dense, can't fit new homes, and they're still trading at super low cap rates
I
out
love
there.
it. So can you express, so in my life, like I'm happy. I am talking to, first of all, it's great to meet you. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I like saying that, man, because I can tell the type of person you are just in your speech pattern about what you're doing. Not once did millions of dollars come through you so far. You're just saying that, look, man, I just was updating my life and I wanted to live differently, and that says volumes about you. What is life like now for you? And by that I mean, I got my laptop, I got my cell phone. I don't want employees. I do have business partners. Everything's virtual. We manage real estate from afar. Yes, it makes money, but that wasn't the point. The point is I didn't want to be in K Street in Washington, D.C. in an office eating Subway sandwiches for lunch every day, taking the metro, not seeing my kids, not traveling. You now own and run mobile home parks and probably some other stuff. Give me a sense of, just from a lifestyle perspective, how that improved your life when you left the sales stuff, or maybe sometimes how it's difficult too. It's not all gravy every time.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's the fun part to talk about. So I guess full disclosure, my life didn't improve out of the gate. The first year, I wouldn't say it was an improvement. I mean, I was living pretty good in California. I had a nice condo by the beach, good income, had a super expensive couch. The whole everything that they tell you is that stuff is nice, right? But at the same time, my lifestyle creeped up pretty high.
Yeah, yeah,
It was time for a reset. So, and part of the reset is just getting used to, I can live with all that out all that stuff, right? So my first year, when I moved to the Midwest, I lived in my partner at the time's basement. No cold, no. It was in the Midwest in the winter. Didn't have the hot water down there, so I was living in the basement on an air mattress. My fiance was still back in California, so I kind of went first to the Midwest. Was able to. Fortunately, the home price is a little bit lower back there, so when I was able to buy a pretty nice house for a low price out there, versus a small condo in California. So the
right.
first year was kind of readjusting. The first year of, I mean, there's not a lot of income coming in, and when you go to real estate, I mean, I really quit my W-2 and went full time in real estate, thinking there'd be a little more cash flow, and there's not. Like you
Yep.
mentioned, it's not. You're not going to be you don't have $100,000 coming in monthly like people think you do when you own a bunch of properties. You're building your financial statements growing, you're building equity over time, but a lot of that money is just sitting in the properties, right? So the
Yep.
cash flow took a couple years to build up. So the first year, I wouldn't say it necessarily improved. but I had freedom, right? I was in Kansas City, Missouri. Now then I went to Indianapolis to get a house finished that took me a while to finish. I'm in Minneapolis right now, right? So I've been able to kind of bounce around. I'm going where the properties are. I have some flexibility. I'm seeing different places in the country, getting kind of different experiences. So
Yeah.
it's all starting to come together. So right now is about year. I think I'm on, getting into year 4. By year 5,
Year
it should
4.
be, yeah, year 4. It's up, trending up. We got definitely enough passive. It's not passive like you hear on LinkedIn, but definitely enough income from rentals and the properties to pay for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
I haven't fully replaced my W-2 income. I've cut down my expenses a lot. I don't have a $4,500 mortgage. We don't have high car payment. We have one car, no mortgage currently. So I've like you mentioned, part of it's building up these streams, but also part of it's chipping down your
Everything
lifestyle.
else.
Yeah, everything else. So
Yeah.
we're kind of been able to do that. So my fiance, who is, I don't know if you've seen her, she's on LinkedIn. She's Chinese. She's born in China. So she's native Chinese speaker. Basically, when I pulled her away she came to the Midwest. She's a business partner now.
Oh, yes. I saw her on your
Nikki,
website. Yep.
yeah. So
Yep.
so Nikki, but in the Midwest, there's not a large Chinese population like she's used to. She doesn't have all the same restaurants and such. So I would say it's been a little bit harder on her
Yep.
doing this. So it's also, you have to have, the real estate thing definitely requires a team effort. So that's also a challenge that people don't necessarily talk about. You're going to have, you have a supportive partner, but if you make real estate and this whole thing your primary, only focus, you can't neglect your significant other
That's
as
right.
well. So it's a huge balancing act. There's times where it's worse. There's times where it's better, but the long-term trend, it will be better over time if you allow it to grow, especially to the point where you're at. I mean, I'm not where you at. I haven't been to 100 countries and 300 times, whatever, you've not there yet. Right. But
Yeah.
you have to work up to that.
Yeah.
And
you do, but look, man, if you're in year 4 of this journey, and I was just reading off your website, I kind of get a sense of your portfolio. Like, it's not that funny enough, the single family is what gave me my freedom. It wasn't the multifamily. But the multifamily, what's starting to happen now is I'm on year 4, technically year 7, but year 4 with Quattro, the stuff that I do there. And we've sold a couple. There was no cash flow coming out of that stuff. There was none. So I want to tell people what I'm doing is, and this may be beneficial to you, I'm not sure, but when I sell a multifamily, like I just got a check for like $350,000 or something like that. I took that money and I paid off 2 single family loans. Now, the conventional wisdom will tell you, why don't you take that money and go reinvest it and go get another multifamily and keep growing? I'm like, no. Actually, and I'm a little bit further ahead of you, not too far ahead. At 48, I'm like, no, I want to chip away at any liability that anyone can call due for any reason outside of me having to pay real estate taxes or something like that I can't affect, right? So one of the benefits of these large scale properties is, like, when you sell it, there's a significant amount of equity there. You can use that equity to then go secure your life. And that's kind of what I preach to people is growth is good. Securing your life is better. I try and tell people, like, secure your cash flow that you need to live, to take care of your family, to have kids, whatever. And whatever that nugget is, leave it alone. Never mess with it. Go around it and then build from there, from zero,
Correct.
But that's why I love multifamily so much and what you're doing, because you're going to have these mass pockets of equity, whatever mass means to you, but you're going to have large pockets of equity that you can then go use to solidify your lifestyle forever. And that's what people are missing, I think, with all this real estate stuff. It's like, oh, I need the money. Let me go get the next deal. And I'm like, what about life?
Yeah.
What about life?
I love the way you're looking at it, because everyone, it's tossed around lot count, how many lots, this and that, the next deal. Like I know how many lots. I have a spreadsheet that shows that, but I don't ever go talk, because it's about how much percent you own of that. And at the end of the day, scale just means you need more employees. So you got to be strategic about it. I'm going after a number to help increase and improve my lifestyle over time, right? So you buy the wrong multifamily property, you're just getting yourself another job, especially if you have a bunch of investors in your pay structures where you have to pay them. You don't see a penny for 5 years. Now you're setting your timeline back. So you got to be strategic with the partnerships you jump into, the properties you buy, because you have to operate them for 10 years. Sure, you get an acquisition fee up front, which a lot of people are chasing, but then now you're stuck operating this for 10 years.
Yep.
And then you're giving yourself another job. So we're really strategic about the properties we buy. I pride myself on saying we're pretty lean. I have virtual assistants. My fiance handles kind of the accounting side and everything, but we don't have a huge staff. I don't even have, at this point, we don't have a regional property manager. We have our properties are very run very well. And I wouldn't buy something that didn't, because I know that's going to kind of go the opposite way. I'm trying to get a headache. Yeah. I'm trying to avoid headaches and be strategic of what we buy. And each piece that you add to the puzzle should get you closer to, a better lifestyle than, you don't want to put bumps in that road, because that's what a lot of people they're chasing for things for the wrong reason. If you're going after scale, you're going to buy a property that's not that sexy because it's another 100 units to your portfolio.
It's just another thing. You're chasing money. Yeah. I tell people, you go ahead and chase money, man. It's going to run from you. But if you get strategic the way you're talking about, then you're secure in life. You're on a wonderful path from my perspective. What do you want to do with Enjoy Capital? Like, where do you see it going? And do you want to build it to a certain number? Do you want to work yourself out of it? I know you raise some investors now, kind of the way that I do. Like, where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a certain goal I want to get to. I mean, I enjoy doing the mobile home parks, and I'm in Minneapolis right now. We have a property here that we're going to be here for 6 months getting this thing going. We didn't have a good manager, so I'm here now. I enjoy this process, but I enjoy being able to kind of do it from anywhere in the country. I want to be able to travel, have the flexibility. At some point, I'll peel myself out a little bit where we just have someone that the managers report to them instead of coming to me, right? So I can take a vacation. I don't get too many calls at this point, but I want to be able to travel, do stuff. I want to still be involved in the business because I enjoy it. I'm not trying to, I never want to just do nothing. So, but I want to have solid properties. Like you said, you're building nice chunks of equity for future time. In 5 to 10 years, you sell some of these or refinance, you're going to see some pretty big numbers come your way, right? And that can help. Like, I think I would do the same. My fiance is the same way. When I first met her, she paid a bunch down to her mortgage. I said, "What are you doing? You can use that money to invest." But she has that same philosophy. She'd rather just have less debt, and then all that's cash flow, right? That goes against the real estate book, maybe, but you just set yourself up with less liabilities, less things that could go wrong, less notes that could become due. So my goal with Enjoy Capital, I'm not actually out there actively promoting and trying to raise money for deals. At this point, we have several larger investors who've been partners with us on particular deals. So we're pretty good in arrangements where it makes sense for both of us. So to answer your question, I'm not trying to that Enjoy. It's just have to have a face to the company, right?
Yeah, it is what it is right now.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. So I'm trying to kind of mimic your path, man. Going to go down that lifestyle, be able to see more countries. If when have children, be able to be present there and just not have to be kind of just not tied down. I mean, tied down to obviously my partner, my fiance, and to that type of stuff, but not like tied down as far as we're tied down to a job or tied down to one location.
I got you. Yeah. And real estate is good for that. I have a lot of business partners. I have a lot of investors, but I can manage. I said, I actually don't have that much to manage, to be honest, because we're managing the managers, right? We have a national property manager for all the multifamily stuff we've got. And then for my single family, I have 5 property managers. I don't hear from them very often unless something is wrong. As long as I see those checks coming in, I know that everything is okay, right?
Where are you right now?
It's enough. I'm in DC right now.
Oh, you're not. I thought you were out of the country still. No, you're
back. I'm in DC. I spent most of June, all of July, all of August floating between Cyprus and Lebanon.
Wow.
And then I flew back to the States to pick up my 10-year-old after his summer swim season. And then we spent a few weeks in Lebanon together. And, same thing. I was running like my coaching business. I was running it online, real estate stuff. I would still have my Quattro calls. Although you got to figure out the time difference issue.
Yeah.
I don't want to have calls at 9 o'clock at night. That wasn't working for me. But it all works. And real estate is a wonderful, wonderful tool for it. A lot of people who are listening to this are going to listen to your story and be like, well, no, that's me. CPA. Then I went into sales. This real estate stuff is there. Thank you so much for talking about it from a life perspective and not just from a money perspective, because that's the most important thing, especially when you're trying to design your life. What would be I asked this of all the guests, what would be one thing you would suggest to people who want to make, dude, there are so many people listening to this right now, or who reach out, who they are in a traditional career, or have been wanting to get into real estate or some other entrepreneurial thing, or want to jump at something new but are nervous about it, which you clearly weren't, you just went after it. What would be one piece of advice that you would give them such that they can have more confidence to try life on their way?
Yeah, let me say, I was definitely nervous. I did it. I just didn't let the nerves get in the way. But I would tell someone it's easier than you think, but you have to start. And if you go into it with just thinking like the first deal or the first thing you go after is a trial run, it makes it a lot less pressure on yourself. So I always say just think of your first deal as a trial run. Get familiar with the process. Don't take on too big of, don't go try to buy a 200,000 or 200 unit apartment and syndicate a deal on your first go. Take something small where your exposure for loss is, something that you could stand to lose, and just think of it as a trial run. Get the motions down, and then after you do the first deal, you get addicted to it and you want to keep going. But it's a lot of people are too afraid. They spend too much time looking after that first deal, and you hear analysis paralysis tossed around all the time. You eventually just got to go. I mean, you're better off aiming for a single than trying to find that home run of a first deal, because the first deal is not going to change your life. I mean, it is by the fact that it gets you started, but the money or the result is not going to change your life.
It's not. That's awesome. It's not. And the other thing I would add to that is the momentum is the outcome that you want. Like, let's say your first deal, let's say it's a small condo or small single family home or whatever, and it's $200 of cash flow. It's not huge, but the fact that you did the deal, you now have momentum, and it will push you to do the second deal, because as you said, it gets a little bit addictive, but you build the confidence.
Yep.
Just do the damn deal. Just don't lose money is what I tell people. Just do the damn deal and you'll get there, man. Andy, brother, I really appreciate you coming on. I had to research your journey a little bit. I found you on a couple other podcasts, so I was happy that I heard it. I love the mobile home park stuff. I have a couple, so we should talk offline about mobile home parks and kind of how you're doing it with investors. Maybe we can do something together. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. And if people do want to reach out, what's the best way, whether it's Enjoy or you personally?
I think just Andy Freeman on LinkedIn. I'm trying to be as active. I fell off a little bit recently, but you know how that goes. It's hard to stay that. Or just Andy at enjoycommunities.com is my email. Anyone want to email? Always glad to help anyone, give guidance, help people with due diligence on properties, et cetera, et cetera.
There it is, brother. And see, I found that as well. People who are in the space that Andy and I are in just want to help, because this there's so much of it available to help people. So thanks for giving that shout to people, man. And thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Had a great time. Thanks.
My man. Hey guys, this is Maurice, host of the Try Life On podcast. And thank you for listening to another episode. I hope you are finding it useful in helping you design your own lifestyle that you don't need a vacation from. If that's the case, please consider dropping a review for me, whether in Apple, iTunes, or in Spotify. Drop a review, put some stars on it, give me some feedback on how I can make the podcast better, what information you are looking for. I am doing my best to get information to you on the Try Life On principles, the 5 freedoms, how to build lifestyle, travel hacking, all of it. And I want to do it for you. So please do a review for me. And until next time, my name is Maurice Philogene, and this is the Try Life On podcast. Peace.